very warm good afternoon to you all, and welcome to Nigeria's capital. Welcome to the home of the National Open University of Nigeria. Welcome to the home where technology intertwine with pedagogies in shifting the boundaries of education beyond the normal. And that is where we find ourselves today at the National Open University of Nigeria for the third ODELAN International Conference 2025, rightly captured, Adaptive Pedagogies for the Future of Education, Connecting Learners, Technologies, and Communities. As we get set for the business of the day, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with great sense of honor that I welcome in our midst the Honorable Minister of Education, ably represented by Dr. Karim Olawale from the Federal Ministry of Education, who is representing Dr. Maruf Tunji Alausa, the Honorable Minister of Education. Sir, you're welcome. Let me also seize this opportunity to welcome in our midst the Chairman and Pro-Chancellor of Council, National Open University of Nigeria, former Executive Governor of Bauchi State, and former Minister of Aviation, Malam Isa Yuguda, CON. Sir, you're most welcome. Let me also recognize the President of the ODELAN, Professor Francis Egbokare, who is here with us. I'd like to also recognize in our midst the Chairman of today's occasion, former Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, and former Executive Secretary of the AAU, Professor Olugbemiru Jegede. So you're most welcome. The host, Vice Chancellor, and the man who has taken Open University to unprecedented height, Professor Olufemi Peters. So you're welcome. Principal officers of now the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Professor Chiedu Mafiana, who incidentally is the chairman of the local organizing committee, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of administration, Professor Isaac Bosworth, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of technology, innovation, and research, Professor Godwin Akbe, the Bursar of the University, Malam Nasuru Marafa, and the Librarian of the University, Dr. Angela Okpala. You're all welcome. I'd like to also seize this opportunity to welcome our keynote speakers, starting with the President of the Commonwealth of Learning, Professor Peter Scott, the Executive Dean, College of Education, University of South Africa, the Vice Chancellor, Miva Open University, one of the babies the National Open University is nurturing, Professor Tayo Orulegun. You're all welcome. It is with high sense of regard that I welcome the Executive Chairman of the EFCC, the representative of the NUC, NBTE, and NCCE, all former Vice Chancellors here present, Professor Vincent Ado Tenebe, Professor Abdallah Uba Adamu, and of course, I'd like to welcome Professor Emeritus Godwin Sogolo. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome all our panel of discussants, deans and directors, members of the LOC, conference partners, participants, both you and those joining us online, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Without any further delay at this very moment, I'd like to call on Professor Chiedu Mafiana, the chairman of the local organizing committee of this conference, for his opening remark.
The Honorable Minister of Education, ably represented, our Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, distinguished Vice Chancellors of the National Open University of Nigeria, past and present, our visiting Vice Chancellors and their representatives, principal officers of NOUN, President of ODELAN, our distinguished delegates, all other protocols duly observed. On behalf of the local organizing committee, I have the pleasure to welcome every one of you to this third ODELAN conference, which is proudly hosted by the National Open University of Nigeria. We are deeply honored to host this prestigious gathering here in Abuja, and I confirm that in this environment, which is quite serene for every one of us. We at NOUN have spared no effort in planning and preparing for what we hope will be a truly superlative international conference. Our goal has been to ensure that your experience, whether you are joining us on site or virtually, is enriching, inspiring, and reflective of the standards we uphold in this National Open University of Nigeria. To our distinguished delegates who have traveled far and near, we welcome you warmly to our campus and indeed to Abuja. This third ODELAN conference kicked off earlier today with 3 very stimulating pre-conference workshops, each offering very valuable insights into critical areas of open and distance learning. The first workshop, organized by Retriedel, focused on fostering research in open distance and digital education. This was expertly facilitated by friends, our renowned scholars, Professor Paul Prinsloo, Professor Christine Ofulue, and also featured a compelling panel discussion with Professor Olugbemiro Jagede-Achia, Professor Adam Sonuka, and Professor Francis Egbokare, all of whom brought decades of their expertise and experiences and thought leadership to this session. Second workshop, also hosted by Retriedel in collaboration with the Interdisciplinary Network on Inclusive Education, which was inaugurated today, focused on inclusive education in open distance learning. Professor Samuel Amposa, a colleague from Ghana, led this engaging session, which underscored the urgency and accessibility and equity in open distance environments. The third workshop, organized by the British Council in collaboration with the National Teachers Institute in Kaduna, focused on digital literacy and pedagogy for teacher capacity and innovation in distance education. This dynamic session was led by Daniel Franciszak and Ilya Dauda from the British Council. These workshops set the tone for what promises to be a thought-provoking and impactful conference. This year, this third ODELAN conference, we are proud to announce that we received and accepted over 140 full papers. This is a testament to the relevance and global interest in the themes of this conference. We are also excited, thank you, we are also excited to host a lineup of outstanding keynote speakers, including Professor Peter Scott, the President of the Commonwealth of Learning, who will be presenting virtually, Professor Tayo Arulogun, our Vice Chancellor, who is here with us, and Professor Mpine Makwe, we welcome you. We thank you very much. You will be delivering in person, so thank you for coming. Their perspectives and insights will no doubt deepen our conversation as well as elevate the discourse around the future of open and distant learning in Nigeria and indeed the rest of the developing world. Furthermore, over 100 participants have expressed interest in joining us virtually, allowing for an inclusive and far-reaching engagement. We are also pleased to inform you that a number of exhibitions showcasing innovations in open and distance learning are ongoing within the conference premises. We urge you to take time to visit these booths. We are deeply grateful to ODELAN, President and Executive, for granting NOUN the opportunity to host this third edition. It is a privilege. We thank you very much. I would like to express our profound appreciation to Professor Lufemi Peters, our Vice Chancellor, who, along with his management, supported us to ensure that we did not falter. Their commitment and encouragement made it possible for us as members of the local organizing committee and as subcommittees to serve in various capacities for the success of this workshop. Let me also encourage all delegates who have found time to come to actively engage in sessions, network with colleagues, and contribute meaningfully to the outcomes of this conference. We hope that the friendships and the professional connections you build in this ODELAN conference will be enduring. Once again, I welcome you to the National Open University of Nigeria. Welcome you to this third ODELAN conference, and indeed to the federal capital, Abuja. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Chiedu Mafiana, DVC ACAD, National Open University of Nigeria, and Chairman, Local Organizing Committee of the third ODELAN Conference. It is with high sense of honor that we are pleased to notify you that the Vice Chancellor, Nile University of Nigeria, Professor Dili Dogo, is well represented by Professor Steve A. Adesina, Director, Open and Distance Learning and Partnership of the Nile University here in Abuja. You're welcome, sir. Also, Director and Chief Executive Officer, National Teachers Institute, Kaduna, Professor Sadia Sani Daura, is represented by Dr. Baladanyaro Aminu, Special Assistant to the Director and Chief Executive Officer. You're welcome. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I won't be alone here to deconstruct the running order for today's business. It's with pleasure that I invite my partner and colleague, Mrs. Funto Olude, to continue from this moment.
I believe I deserve a round of applause as well. All right. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have welcomed you to this event, and we thank you so much for being here. So to move this quickly, standing on existing protocol, we will have for today the host to give us his welcome address, the host for the third ODELAN International Conference happening here in Abuja, and is none other than a distinguished and seasoned professional who has steered the ship of this association, that is the Open and Distance E-Learning Association of Nigeria. So with a warm welcome, can we put our hands together as I invite to give the welcome address for today, the host, Professor Francis Ebokari. Can we put our hands together for him? Thank you very much.
I don't think we have a problem clapping. Can we, another round of applause? So thank you very much. Permit me to read the protocol, because we have the distinguished presence of some very eminent Nigerians here. The chairman of the occasion, our chief patron, and motivator, as well as the chairman of the Board of Trustees of ODELAN, Emeritus Professor Olugbemiro Jegede, the Honorable Minister of Education represented, His Excellency Malam Isa Yuguda, the Chairman of Council, National Open University of Nigeria. I think this is the biggest surprise and the icing on the cake today to have the Chairman of Council here. So can you just... The Vice Chancellor, National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi Peters. Former Vice Chancellors, NOUN. I'm told that it's the tradition of the NOUN, like a snail, to go with its shell. So the Vice Chancellor is the snail. The former Vice Chancellors are like the shell. So the snail does not go anywhere without this shell. So it's nice to see you all, sirs. Emeritus Professor Godwin Sogolo, my former teacher and dean at the University of Ibadan. The representative of the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, who is the acting director of DODEL, Mrs. Morebishe, the vice presidents of ODELAN and other members of the executive committee, visiting vice chancellors and heads of MDAs represented, principal officers of NOUN, all royalty, our lords, spiritual and temporal, members of ODELAN, staff and students of NOUN, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Executive Committee and General Assembly of the Open Distance and E-Learning Association of Nigeria, I welcome our distinguished participants to the third annual conference holding at no other venue than the Center of Excellence in ODL in Africa. If you know of any other Center of Excellence, then you may not clap. But if there is only one of them, please clap. The formation of ODELAN was inspired by the need for research-driven policies, evidence-based regulation, and practice adapted to the nature of the Nigerian state and national realities. ODELAN seeks to become an effective forum for collaboration by researchers, teachers, practitioners, policymakers, and institutions. To date, we have over 500 individual and institutional members drawn from across Nigeria. At the last conference, we opened up membership to policymakers, teachers at the basic level, private sector practitioners, and all interested persons who share our vision. We believe that in a very short while, our conference will easily become the biggest event in e-learning south of the Sahara. The first ODELAN conference took place in Babcock University on 30th April to 2nd May 2023. Last year, we were hosted by the Distance Learning Center of the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. The theme of the 2024 conference in Zaria was Inclusive Digital Learning Ecosystems in Open Distance and E-Learning Education. This year, we are looking at adaptive pedagogy for the future of education, connecting learners, technologies, and communities. Adaptive pedagogy refers to teaching approaches that adjust to the needs, abilities, and learning styles of students. We cannot overemphasize its importance in a multicultural and highly diverse country like Nigeria, with over 526 languages and 250 ethnic groups. It is very important that we embrace adaptive pedagogy in order to improve our educational outcomes. The LOC has assembled very eminent and competent speakers to address the theme of the conference. We would like to express our deep appreciation to Professor Peter Scott, President of the Commonwealth of Learning, Professor Mpine Makoe, Executive Dean, College of Education, University of South Africa, and Professor Tayo Arulogun, Vice Chancellor, Miva Open University, Professor Samuel Amposa of the University of Ghana, Legon, for accepting to share their wealth of knowledge with us. I am particularly delighted that we continue to find opportunity to build capacity through pre-conference workshops supported by Retridol, ISTER, National Teachers Institute, British Council, and the Commonwealth of Learning. We have sponsored 10 teachers from the public school system to attend the pre-conference workshop on digital literacy. That's as an expression of our belief in the need to build capacity even at lower levels. We are grateful to Professor Jane Francis Abu from the Commonwealth of Learning and our team for the excellent workshop on micro-credentials that ended this afternoon. We look forward to partnering with COL in future conferences. Jane, take our message back to COL. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to raise a number of issues for attention and necessary action of relevant authorities. I've gone ahead to list them so that we will be able to remember them. One, the first is the transfer of inefficiencies of the face-to-face mode to ODL through irrelevant resource requirements, accreditation standards, and prescriptions of structures and processes of ODL administration that mirror the face-to-face mode. The framework that drive regulation and accreditation need to be reconsidered. A significant cost of ODL in Nigeria, at least about 30%, is the cost of transferred inefficiencies. We need to undertake a holistic regulatory reform and honest evaluation of practice. The idea of ODL is much burdened by the history of the practice in Nigeria, one in which banks pioneered technology, services, computer vendors championed pedagogy, and many leaders in the system still learn on the job, untrained. The interest in ODL by many institutions is motivated primarily by IGR considerations rather than the quality of education. We need to change it. The mode of ODL in Nigeria is too resource intensive with redundancies and overlaps, excessive sunk cost, idle assets, and low cost to program ratio. The business models fail to integrate local and national assets, thereby increasing infrastructural costs excessively. The adoption of a turnkey factory approach to licensing new open universities undermines the organic evolution of university culture. A university is not simply known, is known more for its culture than buildings. 4, in many dual mode universities, we are more or less running parallel universities, if not competing institutions. The implication of this is that we pass the cost of inefficiencies to students and staff. There is a great injustice facing ODS students, and I need to point this out. Challenges of parity of esteem and arbitrarily limiting the program options available to distance learner is the norm. One still wonders why professional organizations insist that certain courses should not be run through the ODL mode, whereas many of these persons take diverse professional development training through the same mode. I don't want to mention the law program that has remained, I can say it because I'm not vice chancellor, so I can say it, I'll mention it here. Number 6, the denial of ODS students access to government subsidy on tuition and students' loan undermines their rights as citizens. There is a grave injustice on Nigerians whose only crime is the mode of learning that they choose or which circumstances has foisted on them. There is a problem. Once you are in distance learning mode, you have no access to student loans. I don't think this is right. Let me also mention that in dual mode institution, the fees which ODS students pay are used to subsidize the face-to-face students as IGR in ODS students, while ODS students are subjected to diverse abuse and harassment. This is not right. Studies have shown that a substantial number of those who currently enroll in distance learning programs fall within the class of poor and vulnerable Nigerians, yet we exploit them to make the rich comfortable. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the menace of fake universities remain with us, in spite of the best efforts of the federal government to curb them. It is a symptom of the failure of lifelong learning opportunities, the non-recognition of experience and prior learning as entry criteria to tertiary education, the limited educational pathways available to Nigerians, inadequate learner mobility, and inadequate integration of the tertiary education system. We need to shift from a supply-based approach to higher education to a demand-based one. This is the best way to shift the focus of the system to service orientation, where the learner is king. There's no better way to enhance quality than this. Ladies and gentlemen, the support of the Vice Chancellor of NOUN, Professor Olufemi Peters, to ODELAN is unquantifiable. He has been pivotal to our success at every step of the way. Later today, we shall be honoring him and Emeritus Professor Olugbemi Jegede as the first two fellows of ODELAN in Nigeria. I need to mention here that the rest of us in the executive decided that we will have to do some tests and pass exams to become fellows. We can't give ourselves a fellowship. But these two individuals are eminently qualified. They are the ones who set the exams. Every other person takes it. The NOUN management and staff are ODELAN's mothership. You are all just fantastic. We are grateful to Retridor. We are grateful. Retridor has been at the forefront of all the good things happening in ODL in the last few years. We have an inestimable supporter in the director, Professor Christine Ofulwe, and the staff of Retridor. Please help me acknowledge them, please. The team is exceptional. From the look of things, this conference is already looking exceptional. From what we have seen from the pre-conference workshops, it has exceeded the standards of many international conferences held in resource-rich countries. In spite of the challenging times, the LOC, headed by the DVC academics, Professor Chiedu Mafiana, has made us all very proud. Thank you so much, brother. To all members of the LOC, you have made us all very proud. Finally, to my team, the Executive Committee of ODELAN, we have done it again. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
We can do better than that. Thank you very much. And that was the president of ODELAN, none other than Professor Francis Ewokare. Can we give him another round of applause, please? And there was something profound he said. One, we've done it again. Two, this is an exceptional conference. Can we put our hands together again? All right, so before we move on to the next item of the agenda, I would like to recognize the presence of the Executive Secretary of the National Commission for Colleges of Education, that is Dr. Umar Adamu Kwame, who is representing the Executive Secretary. He's the Director of Academic Programs. We have Dr. Umar Adamu Kwame here today. Can we put our hands together? Can we recognize you? Thank you very much for being here. Okay, so next we have a documentary that we all need to watch. This is a documentary that has been put together for you to understand where we are. This is the first and the largest single-mode open university in West Africa, the National Open University of Nigeria. Yes. Like I said, the first and the largest. So we will be having a documentary. I would like you to please listen attentively and watch as well as we shoot this. Thank you very much. And after that, we will have a welcome address. So.
Over the years, the thirst for tertiary education in Nigeria has grown stronger, with millions of Nigerians seeking opportunities to improve their knowledge and secure a better future. And in the early 2000s, a vision for accessible education in Nigeria was reignited. After nearly 2 decades in limbo, the National Open University of Nigeria was reborn in 2002, led by Professor Olugbemi Jegede, a passionate advocate for open and distance learning.
For 20 years or more, Nigeria missed educating a whole mass of people. And because we have missed it, and the government of Obasanjo now saw that there was a teeming crowd, a teeming people still searching for higher education, it became very imperative that the National Open University of Nigeria will be started.
The National Open University of Nigeria set out to redefine higher education through various strategies, and with the vice-chancellors that have led the university consolidating on each other's achievements. Today, National Open University of Nigeria stands as a hub for tertiary education, breaking barriers and bringing learning to the doorstep of every Nigerian.
The National Open University of Nigeria was the first to set up community-based study centers. So we have three types of study centers. We have the normal one that I said government said we should have. We have the one set up for the armed forces and paramilitary. So you have them with the police, with the military, with the civil defense, etc., immigration and correctional services. We have them. We even have graduates now coming from the prisons. But the third set of study centers were the one that communities all over Nigeria are setting up. And we have quite enough. We have close to 20 something set up by various communities so that we should not leave anybody behind, so that distance should not be a problem, so that we should take distance out of access to education.
I can tell you that a good foundation was laid by my predecessor, Professor Jagede, and I built upon that. And because that foundation was solid, what I built upon it also became magnified.
National Open University of Nigeria has penetrated into every nook and cranny of the country, giving people an opportunity to acquire education at their own places and at their own paces.
The first matriculation ceremony of the university took place in Lagos in 2005, followed by its maiden convocation in 2009. Since then, the university has held 14 convocation ceremonies, graduating thousands of students across various disciplines. Notably, it has also produced over 40 PhD graduates, with former President Olusegun Obasanjo being the first among them. Even those in correctional facilities are not left out, as the university in 2009 put in place mechanisms for those incarcerated to have access to education through the Now platform, free of charge. From a single building in Lagos before moving its headquarters to Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, the National Open University of Nigeria has grown to a full campus with state-of-the-art facilities and over 120 study centers nationwide, serving more than 120,000 active students and over 180,000 alumni. Sweet as it sounds and beautiful as the Now campus looks, achieving these feats was never a walk in the park.
Setting up an open university is capital intensive. And so you needed a lot of money at the beginning, and thereafter it begins to run itself if things were well done. We had problems.
The major challenge the university is facing is public acceptability. You could see that the public were a little bit skeptical about open and distance learning when it came. It was a new vision, a new visitor, and academics all over were very skeptical. So it was a major work of the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Jagede, and myself to make the university more acceptable. But it was under Professor Tenebe that we were really able to achieve a measure of acceptability after we conducted our accreditation exercise.
During my tenure as Vice Chancellor, I tried my best to ensure that Nigerians actually understood what Open University meant and what open and distance learning stood for.
What we wanted is for the university to be accepted as an open and distant learning institution, and I think we have succeeded.
One of the uniqueness of the National Open University of Nigeria lies in its flexibility through the technology-embedded teaching and learning pattern. Through its learning management system, students can sit in the comfort of their homes and learn from wherever they are.
The major issue about examination is integrity. And our university, because we conduct exams at the same time and at the same place for the same course, it meant that our examination procedure must be top-notch. Our examination process is top-notch. And the way we set questions, the way we moderate the questions, and the way we offer the questions, and the way we mark the questions is exemplary.
The e-ticketing platform of the university also allows students, both past and present, to interact with the university on various issues bothering about their studies. The National Open University of Nigeria is not only about access, it is also about quality and innovation. All academic programs are fully accredited by the National Universities Commission, NUC, and the university is known for its transparent assessment system, research-oriented curriculum, and industry-relevant offerings.
Some of our experienced professors and academics who were opposed to open and distance learning, we got them involved. They were the people who produced our study materials. They were the people who were also supervisors to our students. They were the people who were our external examiners. They were the people who were moderators of our programs. And we ensured that we followed the NUC benchmark.
In the year 2013, the National Open University of Nigeria pioneered e-examination in Nigeria and has since set a benchmark for academic integrity with proctored online examinations and a robust quality assurance system.
We became the first university in Africa to conduct an examination online from all locations, all over West Africa. And at that particular time, the technology was new. We were just learning it ourselves, but we were able to master it very quickly, and then we're able to deliver our examination online.
At the comfort of your house or in your office, you could sit and have your exam. And not just that, it identifies you, recognizes you in real time with your image, your picture, and you could, it minimizes the risk of exam malpractices.
I wrote one of my exams in the car, so being shaky and all that, a warning popped up and I was a bit freaked out, but yes, it was a nice experience basically.
Today, the National Open University of Nigeria, led by its Vice-Chancellor, Professor Olufemi Peters, has taken a lead in conducting training in open and distance learning for conventional universities interested in dual mode of teaching, promotional examinations for government agencies, as well as partnering with the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, in organizing entrance examination for visually impaired students.
Right now, we have about 14 of such federal agencies that we conduct examinations for, promotion examinations for every year. So I think we are doing very well in examinations.
With the establishment of the African Center of Excellence on Technology Enhanced Learning, ESTEL, through the support of the World Bank, the National Open University of Nigeria has become a flagship for technology-driven education. With its several laboratories, ESTEL is focused on human capacity development and research in digital solutions. The National Open University of Nigeria is not just about producing graduates, but is also invested in lifelong learning. The establishment of the Regional Training Institute on Distance and Open Learning in the year 2003 has made a remarkable mark in open and distance learning. Dedicated to capacity building and research in open and distance learning, Retridol, in collaboration with the Commonwealth of Learning, has become a strong backbone of the university, developing academic programs, online courses, and research activities for the university. Through its digital platforms, Retridol has been able to contribute to the drafting of the first national ODL policy, laying the foundation for a new era in education. The seeds planted in these early years have blossomed into a robust digital university, setting standards for open learning across Africa.
I see us to meeting the mandate, increasing the accessibility to Nigerians, increasing the literacy level of Nigerians, and then making NOUN itself a global candidate for students' intake.
The National Open University's legacy is one of access, excellence, and opportunity for all.
I think we deserve a round of applause, don't we? You see, you will not understand and agree with me when the president of ODELAN was making his speech earlier on. He said the National Open University of Nigeria is a center of ODL excellence. What you've just seen today is just a tip of the iceberg of what the NOUN is all about. In some other climes, these four gentlemen here will have been decorated with national honor. When Professor Olugbemi Rejegede, because I joined the NOUN at the twilight of his administration, when he was leaving, we said, that was the end of ODL in Nigeria. Boom. Professor Vincent Ado Tenebe came on board. It took him just 7 months to fertilize what you now see as the structure of the National Open University of Nigeria. 7 months. When he left, we said, the job is done, so everybody's home. Abdallah Uba Ademu came on board. Massively, he transformed the structure, infrastructure, training, and what have you. When he was leaving, we said, all fine and good, we are done for it. Then this gentleman here come on board, Professor Olufemi Peters. Now he has moved this university to an overdrive. History will be kind to all of you while you are alive, even when you are not around. Professor Femi Peters, sometimes I used to wonder, when you leave, what will your successor be doing here at the NOUN? The school will be on overdrive. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, show me one PRO of any university in Nigeria that looks like me. This is another sign that we are the best and a test to the rest. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may we not quickly forget that we are here for the third ODELAN conference and taking place here. It is with high sense of pleasure that I invite one of those you've just watched as responsible for the movement of NOUN through leaps and bounds to the level we are today. Put your hands together as I welcome the Vice Chancellor, Professor Olufemi Peters, for his welcome remark.
The Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Maruf Alausa, being represented by Dr. Abdulkarim, a guru himself in ODL at the Federal Ministry of Education. Our chairman of today, I don't know how to say, how you are drafted as chairman, Professor Olugbemi Rejegede, former Vice Chancellor of this university. The Pro-Chancellor of our university, His Excellency Malam Issa Yuguda. We are glad to have you here, sir. Visiting Vice Chancellors are present, and quite a number of them are here. The former Vice Chancellors of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Adamu Abdallah and Professor Vincent Tenebe, and you are welcome. The President of the Commonwealth of Learning, Professor Peter Scott, in absentia, I'm told he's going to make some presentation by virtually. Our keynote speakers here present. We're really grateful for coming to our university and especially to be present at this ODELAN conference. The president of ODELAN, the man who has brought us here actually, Professor Francis Egbokare, I want to welcome you to the university. Our partners who have assisted and supported the ODELAN and also the National Open University of Nigeria, the principal officers of the university. And I want to especially mention somebody, Professor Paul Prinsloo, a retired professor of distance learning at the University of South Africa, someone who has obliged us free of his expertise in ODL. You are welcome to the university once again. Gentlemen of the press, I just remember that I'm seeing Jane here. Jane Agu, our representative at the Commonwealth of Learning, and the director in charge of ODL at the National Universities Commission. You are all welcome. Welcome to here. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegates, distinguished guests, it is with the warmest pleasure that I deliver this welcome address to you, our distinguished audience of the third conference of the Open and Distance Learning Association of Nigeria, holding at my university, the National Open University of Nigeria, Jabi. After we've just listened to or watched I wasn't sure really what other things I could say about the university that was not captured in that short video. This is the third ODELAN conference, and we had thank especially the first university that blazed the trail for this conference. They were extremely courageous. That was the Babcock University in the Ogun State. And thereafter, my former university, the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, they truly were the courageous ones that fought this forward. Please clap for them. My address is, if you check the program, it's called Special, because I really wasn't expected to speak this long. And I want to crave your indulgence. I'm going to spend a little of your time in order to make what I want to say. And the topic is really ODELAN. Where next? And what next? First, I congratulate the executive board for the organizations of this third conference. We are indeed growing. So permit me therefore to thank the president and the executive members of the association for giving my university the honor to host this year's conference. I am aware that the hostings of this year's conference, a year after the last one held at Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, was a great concession to my person, since by convention, the General Assembly of ODELAN had agreed that conferences will now be a 2-yearly affair. The concession had come about because they were aware that I'll be completing my tenure of office as Vice Chancellor very soon. So they wanted to make sure that I host a conference. Please thank them for me. When the preparation for the conference commenced, I was approached by the organizers whether I would like to give a keynote address, since I had provided one at the last 2 conferences. After giving it some careful thought, I turned down the request on the excuse that as chief host, I should be seen, not heard, outside the conventional welcome address. However, somehow, as the conference day drew near, I noticed some distortion in the context of the proliferation of establishments of distance learning institutes and centers all over the country. This brought me some sadness, as the reasons, though unknown to me in actual fact why there seems to be this proliferation, seem not to be altruistic when compared to the mandate given to my institution by the founder, Federal Government of Nigeria. Very often, we forget to realize that ODL has some fundamental social egalitarian philosophy behind its operation and growth. It was a philosophical context that actually drew me into the field of ODL and indeed into NOUN. Those who listened to my inaugural lecture will recall my brief foray into egalitarianism in that lecture. It is still the reason I seem to be passionate about ODL and passionate about my university. Therefore, when I was asked again whether I could give an address at the upcoming conference, I accepted and even provided a topic for discussion on one of the two issues that was bothering my mind. My topic of presentation was, is ODL all about technology? For this reason, I reasoned that I could provide a keynote address where I would have the opportunity to provide the philosophical context underpinning ODL. Just for clarity, to mention the other issue I felt concerned was ODL being used as a sort of IGR, as brilliantly also mentioned by the president of ODELAN. However, as you could see from the topic of my address this afternoon, it has changed. This is not to relegate or discountenance the importance of the two issues, money and technology in ODL, as fundamental to the practice of ODL in my country, but to take a deeper look into its professionalization through the institutionalization of our association of practitioners. Thus, 2 days ago, I changed my mind throughout the draft I was preparing for my welcome address at this conference and commenced work on a new draft on the plane returning me from Brazil after the Brazilian Educational Distance Conference. I was privileged to be invited to provide a keynote address at the 30th International Congress on Distance Education, organized by the Brazilian Association of Distance Education. The invitation was a result of my being first vice president of the African Council for Distance Education and as vice chancellor of the largest ODL institution in the West Africa sub-region. Similar invitations were extended to other continental ODL associations. And therefore, I want to thank Professor Solomon Shibairo, president of ACDE, for releasing me to attend the conference. It was at the CIAD event that I changed my mind about the address to give at this ceremony. At the Congress, I became envious of the strides made by the Brazilian Distance Education Association within its 20 years of distance education. I soon realized, however, that the success of the Congress was as a result of the professionalism embodied in the operations of the Brazilian Association of Distance Education. The president, Professor João Mata, has only been in the saddle for 2 years. Also, the association is a non-governmental association like ours, ODELAN. However, it drawn over 2,000 participants to the Congress, of which 90% of them were from Brazil. Please recall that Brazil has a population of over 200 million, like ours. So, ODELAN, what next? How sustainable? I am aware that our current president may wish to step down at this conference to a new executive. I've just discovered through the WhatsApp that he's the sole contestant, isn't it? I know this because it took some measure of pressure last year to make him continue in the office. Furthermore, I will not be sure as well if other members of the executive board will not be exiting as well. But the ODELAN has been a success story thus far. Within 5 years of our establishment, we have organized 3 conferences and have seen its membership grow to over 500 for individuals and about 21 as institutional members. This year, it has even been able to attract international participants, as we read and heard from the president of ODELAN itself. This is good news. From my biased view, I must say that the success of ODELAN has been due largely to the dedication and steering capability of the president, Professor Francis Egbokare, and one-time director of Distance Learning Institute, University of Ibadan, under the VC-ship of Professor Olufemi Bamiro and members of his board. I have witnessed the maturity and the capability of the members of the board that he has led. Their devotion to ODL and commitment to their roles has brought the association to this level. As a lurker, a silent participant at their WhatsApp group, at the ODELAN WhatsApp platform, I have observed with great enthusiasm of members on matters concerning this conference and their participation. From available indices, the ODELAN is growing in leaps and bounds, but therein lies the caution to its sustainability. That is, the capacity of the members to sustain the association and grow even further. Let me return to the 30th Congress, which ended in Brazil on the 10th of May, and which resulted in celebrating my birthday in flight, away from my family and friends on the 11th of May. I was very sad that I was not at home to enjoy the cake, but the office made up for it 2 days ago when I returned. One of the profound attractions to me was the statement of mission by the president of the Brazilian Distance Education Association, Professor João Mata. He said that the organization of the Congress was to further this discussion on distance learning. Therefore, we have brought together national and international keynote speakers representing the most important distance education associations in the world, who will reflect on the challenges and opportunities of the globalization of distance education. The Congress featured a diverse program with activities that encourage the exchange of knowledge and experiences. They had plenary sessions. They have dialogues and debates. They have roundtables to exchange perspectives. They had lectures that delve into innovations and challenges. They had EAD talks, that's the examination talks, bringing inspiring insights into the future of the distance education. They had mini courses for professional training and improvement. They had meetings and gatherings of networks. They had podcasts with discussions and special guests. They had presentation of scientific papers and poster sessions. They had institutional presentations highlighting experiences and good practices from different organizations. They had book launches. They had new publications in the area. They had awards ceremony recognizing outstanding initiatives in distance learning. When I saw this, I could only imagine my ODELAN also packed within 3 days of all these activities with over 2,000 participants. I was envious. In addition, participants were able to explore a corporate expose called Expo EAD with the Congress Fair, which showcased the latest technological solutions and innovations for this digital education. My investigation showed that the Brazilian Association of Distance Education has been a leading player in the development and strengthening of distance education in Brazil. I want to repeat it again. My investigation showed that the Brazilian Association of Distance Education has been a leading player in the development and strengthening of distance education in Brazil, always promoting quality, innovation, and inclusion. The Congress has always been a space for meeting and dialogue between educators, managers, researchers, and all the actors that make distance education a transformative reality in its theater of operations. This, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, is my aspiration for ODELAN. And you will see that for an association to have gotten this level, there must be certain preconditions that over the years that they have gathered, for which ODELAN must be. It's also clear that distance education will not wait for government. It is the association that has made the growth in the Brazilian context very beautiful. What, therefore, must we be prepared to do? So I've listed here a number of issues I considered that ODELAN Association and the executives that is coming may need to look at. We must be able to define a clear mission and vision. If we have not done this, because I expect we have done it, like any other organization, corporate organization, we must define the core purpose and goals of ODELAN in simple,
worded unambiguous language, encapsulated in an envisioned long-term focus and direction. We must establish strong corporate governance. One of the major sustaining initiatives that I noted in Brazil was that the first president, an American, spent 28 years as president of the Congress before handing over to Professor Mata just 2 years ago. We must be able to provide valuable services and resources. This is extremely important. Quite often, professional engagements within the association is limited to conferences and whenever the executive board meets. This practice does not endanger unity, cohesiveness, and ownership of the association. It is my considered opinion that a professional association worth its salt must engage in regular activities that keeps our members tuned into its presence at all times. These engagements will be most beneficial if done through professional development of our members. Such engagements could include offering training sessions, organizing workshops at times to coincide with the main event of the year, webinars, and resources that address members' needs and enhance their professional skills. And thank God for social media. Create networking opportunities where issues concerning conferences, announcements of events locally and globally in the respective areas are shared. The importance of social media is reflected in the provision of regular updates to members. And if this is not enough, other communication channels like emails and or newsletters may be exploited. Next is ensure financial sustainability. No society or association can survive without a measure of financial stability. In most cases, this is an utmost concern as members may not be willing to part with their funds unless they perceive or receive a beneficial return. In classical international style, professional associations seek diverse funding streams, varying from traditional membership fees, journal article subscriptions, grants from non-governmental agencies, organizations of conferences, workshops, and webinars where token fees are charged. A very viable activity is for the association to be in a position to provide the leverage of networking opportunities for her members. ODELAN must be able to foster a sense of belonging. Of recent, one of the laudable exercises at professional conferences these days is the holding of panel sessions, where persons are brought together to discuss and share experiences on certain issues germane to the professionalization of the association. My suggestion here is that this type of discussion forum can also be mounted on a regular basis virtually, where, for instance, opportunities are provided to connect established and older professionals with those that are new to the field, or for certain operational processes to be discussed. For instance, there is nothing wrong in MIVA asking Open University, how do you conduct your exam in a webinar, and inviting other institutions as well, and share experiences and improve the quality of your delivery. This type of fostering relationships actually end up cultivating a positive and inclusive organizational structure that reflects the values of the association. Next is ODELAN. You must be able to build strategic partnerships. One of the more durable relationships in the contemporary world is the desire to identify and engage with other organizations, institutions, and stakeholders that align with the association's mission in order to expand its reach and available resources. For instance, there are so many techie companies springing up now and then, and it could be useful to occasionally invite some of them to provide current technological advancements of their products in a webinar. And I'm sure in no time, they will become partners that could be used in future to promote events and initiatives and enhance visibility and attracting new members. ODELAN, you must avoid politicization of issues. In our country, one of the easily disuniting aspects of our life is the manner we politic. We seem to have been master of introducing all manner of political exuberances into our operations and activities. From experience, politics soon endanger the unity of purpose of an association and could lead to non-attainment of our goals. Sometimes it may even lead to eventual disintegration of such an association. An undeniable aspect of human life, the damaging effect of bad politicking on the society or association is usually long-lasting, whereas the effect on the individual member in an association is rather short-lived. Care, therefore, must be taken to provide structured administrative positions with stated roles and effective communication channels that will ensure transparency as much as possible. A possible compromise in the heavily charged political environment is to develop a robust communication strategy that keeps members informed through newsletters, emails, and social media, where they share news, expose events, and opportunities. ODELAN, you must prepare a constitution for your association if you do not have it yet. It is not far-fetched. And as the association grows, it will do well to have a body of rules and regulations with futuristic provisions for its development and sustainability. This, a constitution embodies, and it will ensure long-lasting ethos for running the organization objectively. Going forward, as we elect new executives, I urge us all to have the interest of ODELAN in our mind, and not the self-benefit that may accrue from occupying a position of trust in the association. One of the takeaways I got from Brazil is the publication of theirs that is entitled censoead.br, which detailed an analytical report of distance learning in Brazil, This is not produced by NUC. This is not produced by Federal Ministry of Education. This is produced by the association. It is a 2022 Brazilian census for distance learning published every 3 years. I am providing a scanned copy of the table of contents, ODELAN, for your perusal. It speaks for itself, the depth of work being done by the Brazilian distance education. And we could see that executive summary, DL expansion plans in Brazil, on-site supports, institutions with without on-site hubs, analyzing the hubs creation, interaction student on-site hub functions. Part 3, businesses focused on DL modality. Part 4, incorporating technologies and active methodologies into educational institutions. Part 5, educational resources offered to DL students. Part 6, tutors' role. Part 8, evaluation strategies in distance learning. Part 9, dropout, we will call it attrition. Part 10, distance learning students' profile and challenges for educational management. Part 11, cross-functional teams. Part 12, the DL management challenges for 2024. Part 13, mapping the students' specific needs. Part 14, on-site attendance in DL courses. Part 15, hybrid learning. Part 16, extension curricular accreditation. Part 17, the possible ways for integrating ESG programs in DL courses and HEIs. And finally, Part 18, analysis of the average teachers. This document was not produced by National Universities Commission of their own there. Was not produced by the Federal Ministry of Education. Was produced by you, the association. So the growth of distance learning is in the hands of ODELAN. That's where I'm going. And if the Brazilian association could do this survey and present this report for its own members and for consumption of government, you could see the extent to which they have managed their association. I wish this for ODELAN. In conclusion, it is obvious from reading the charts on our WhatsApp forum that we have to be more professional and businesslike in the matters of our association. People are more critical of services they want and received. I want to implore all who wish to contest elections to be more circumspect in their desire to hold office. Their desire must be noble. Secondly, we must establish a secretariat. The secretariat will be furnished by NOUN as part of our support. ODELAN must staff the secretariat with defined roles and responsibilities. Ad hoc staff may no longer hold the future for us. Some of the staff can be employed on a permanent basis on the payroll of ODELAN. 1 or 2 additional personnel positions may be filled by an NYSC member. For my part, the NOUN is willing to assist the association develop to its potential. Already, we provided a space for ODELAN in my university. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, recall the issue of money and technology that I mentioned in the early part of this discourse. Well, let me demonstrate to you the power of money by a story once told by Prime Minister Winston Churchill himself. We should know who Winston Churchill is in this hall. In the narrative, Winston Churchill said, "I took the taxi one day and went to the BBC office for an interview. And when I arrived, I asked the driver to wait for me for 40 minutes until I got back. But the driver apologized and said, I can't, because I have to go home to listen to Winston Churchill's speech." Churchill says he was amazed and delighted with this man's desire to listen to his conversation. So Churchill took £10 from his pocket and gave it to the taxi driver without telling the driver who he was. And when he collected the money, the driver said, "I will wait hours until you come back, sir. Let Churchill go to hell." I would like to extend my gratitude to ODELAN executives for bringing this conference to our university and for making everything possible for us. Equally so, I express my gratitude to the LOC, headed by the DVC academic Professor Felix Chiedu Mafiana, and staff of Richardson, who have remained steadfast in propagating the true philosophy and practice of ODL. Additionally, I want to appreciate all the member institutions of ODL that are here present, including individual members who have made this conference a success. Thank you once again for being here. I wish us all a memorable and successful conference and safe travel back to your various destinations. Thank you very much. Vice Chancellor.
Yes, he deserves a standing ovation. Can we put our hands together for Professor Olufemi Peters, the Vice Chancellor of NOUN. I believe we have been schooled this afternoon. Thank you very much. You can have your seats. That was an amazing welcome address with a lot to learn and a lot for us to take home and to ponder on, especially the ODELAN itself. So congratulations to everyone seated here for listening, because of course there are deep insights from what he has shared today. So moving on quickly, we've had a lot of talk, a lot of speeches here and there, but we're just going to add a bit of spice to this event. So we're taking it a different dimension. So to your delight, this afternoon, we are going to have a special music performance by the NYSC dance troupe. We want you to have a feel of what Nigeria is about. For those of you who are joining us online, you will be experiencing this as an e-learning experience. Let me use it that way. So to give us this special dance performance, please let's put our hands together as I invite the NYSC dance troupe. We ready? Good. Can we put our hands together for them as they set up?
Thank you very much. Now I know your suffering does not continue. Well, that was a great show they put out there, and if you really enjoy it, please, can we give you a second round of applause, please? Moments ago, while my Vice Chancellor was delivering that powerful message, I overheard a conversation between one participant and another, tongue-in-cheek, saying, this environment doesn't look like a Nigerian university. Well, I understand and I agree with you, because you cannot imagine in your university, a public university in Nigeria, with this kind of facilities that we are in here, and with all the aesthetics you are seeing around, you cannot imagine that. But I got news for you. When Professor Olugbemiro Jegede was appointed the VC of the National Open University of Nigeria, he wasn't teleguided to do some specific kind of things. It was from his wealth of experience, from his movements around the world, from what the open and distance learning is all about, that he fertilized what he did at the National Open University of Nigeria. And of course, when his time came, when Professor Vincent Adot Tenebe came on board, he wasn't specifically issued any instrument of sort that you must do this, this, and that. The same thing applies to Professor Abdallah Uba Adamu, and of course, to this gentleman here, Professor Olufemi Peters. What am I talking about here? It takes just great minds, willpower, and ability for this gentleman to do the things they do here. So, the VCs around here, the executive secretaries around here, and chief executive officers that are here, well, this is like a learning point for you. You may want to pick one or two things from the National Open University of Nigeria and, of course, fertilize it in your own institution. On that note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like, with all sense of honor, to please ask that you give a resounding round of applause for the Honorable Minister of Education, who is ably represented by Dr. Karim Olawale from the Federal Ministry of Education, of course representing the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Maruf Tunji Alausa, for his remark.
The Pro-Chancellor and the Chairman of Governing Council of National Open University of Nigeria, Your Excellency, Malam Isa Yeguda, CON, the father of open and distance learning in Nigeria, the person of Professor Emeritus Olugbemiro Jegede, the host Vice Chancellor, who I can tell as a father and a friend. You see the way he has been just appreciating me since we know where we normally meet. Thank you very much. That's Professor Femi Peters. Thank you for the human job in the university. The former Vice Chancellors in attendance, especially Professor Vincent Tenibe and Professor Abdallah. I happen to have a serious engagement with the former Vice Chancellors because I happen to be the secretary of the decision panel that assessed the performance of the universities from 2011 to 2010, just like a presidential panel. And we have rigorous engagement with them. I think the panel was headed by a well-experienced head of service, that's Alhaji Sali Bello. In fact, it was at that forum we know that yes, those people we mentioned, they are really putting their best to elevate the Open University to the standard we are having. So I also want to join other people to commend all the former Vice Chancellor for the human job they have done in the university. Let me also recognize the chairman of the ODELAN, Professor Francis Bokari, distinguished members of the ODELAN, other dignitaries here present, ladies and gentlemen. It's very unfortunate that a minister couldn't attend this program in person. Today is one of the busiest days for the minister the last 2 or 3 weeks. This morning, from at NUC, we just had a meeting with all the vice chancellors in Nigerian universities over the issue arising with the disbursement of the student loan scheme, of which many Nigerians are already complaining. So I think the meeting extended till afternoon. And as we are talking now, there's a meeting of IMC, that is a President Monitoring Committee on Needs Assessment Projects, which is a subject that the union has been battling with the ministry. In fact, now many of our unions are there. So those are sensitive areas which and the minister is the chairman, so they are on that meeting. So, but the minister has been asking questions since last week about this ODELAN, which we have been able to give him some of the hints on them. But I want to believe that after this program, the executive of ODELAN we may have the cause to visit the honorable minister and be able to discuss more on the issue of ODL, especially now that the ministry itself is developing a standalone national policy, which is being chairmaned by Professor Jegede. One thing that we have to discuss, which is that some professionals have taken it that open and distance learning does not get to their own area of specialty for their program. And I know that the Pro-Chancellor has written a powerful letter to that effect, especially with the law program, which has been stopped for some time, and of which many of the people who completed their program on law here, they perform excellently well in the law school. But yet, many professors still believe that we can allow open and distance learning, whether as a solo or hybrid, to take place here. We're talking about engineering, medicine, and so on. And this is the area where I think ODELAN should be able to be going. I'm expecting a conference, which will not be only for only professionals in ODL. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, all of them. They are the people who have certain perception. Do I call it a misconception or wrong perception or apathy towards ODL? And we are aware, even in the medicine, we are having telemedicine, everything, but in Nigeria, so that is an area whereby the association has to work on. There's apathy towards the open and distance learning. It's achieving a lot elsewhere, but in Nigeria, we are adamant. So I believe it's one of the things that the ODELAN will have to be partner with the ministry so that we can find a way forward. I just said, because when I was coming to this program, I thought I'm coming to relax my head, having been dealing with some files, only to come here, you people in academia, you send us again to the classroom. I wish I would be preparing for another jump. So thank you very much for that one. So let me just quickly give you some of the words that the minister have for you. And also I want to say that apart from this one too, I also wanted the ODELAN, the members, to take it in collaboration with the Vice Chancellor of now and people like Professor Emeritus Jegede to have interaction with the minister on how to confront some of the issues I've mentioned about headlong, so that Nigerians will benefit immensely from the open and distance learning. So this remarks is by the Honorable Minister of Education, that's Dr. Maruf Tuji Alausa, being delivered by his servant, Wale Karim. It gives me a great pleasure to address this distinguished gathering at the opening ceremony of the 3rd International Conference of the Open Distance and E-Learning Association of Nigeria, ODELAN. I warmly welcome all participants, local and international, to this critical dialogue on the future of education in Nigeria. The theme of this conference, Adaptive Pedagogies for the Future of Education, Connecting Learners, Technologies, and Communities, could not be more timely or relevant. In an age defined by rapid technological innovation, shifting learning demographics, and global uncertainties, the need for education system to be flexible, inclusive, and future-ready has never been greater. Today, we gather not just to share ideas, but to chart a course for a more resilient, equitable, and innovative education future, one that leverages the full potential for open, distance, and e-learning. Adaptive pedagogies, as we understand them, are approaches that respond to the evolving needs of learners by embracing technology, differentiated instruction, data-driven methods, and learner-centered strategies. Nigeria, like many nations, faced unprecedented educational disruption during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, that challenge also accelerated the adoption of digital learning platform, prompting us to reimagine traditional models of education. This conference provides an opportunity to take those lessons further, moving from emergency remote teaching to sustainable, adaptive, and inclusive pedagogical models. As a government, we remain committed to strengthening open and distance learning in our national policy framework. We recognize its potential to expand access to quality education, especially in undeserved communities, and to support lifelong learning for all. I commend ODELAN for its continual efforts in building a community of practice that champions innovation, research, and collaboration in the ODL space. Your work is essential in shaping policies, training educators, and developing tools that will drive Nigeria's educational transformation. To all researchers, educators, technologists, and stakeholders gathered here, I urge you to engage deeply, challenge assumptions, and forge partnerships that will move us closer to a more inclusive, adaptive, and future-oriented education system. Let this conference not only be a forum for academic exchange, but a launching pad for concrete action that will empower educators, uplift learners, and position Nigeria as a leader in digital and distance education. With these few words, I declare the third ODELAN International Conference officially open. Thank you and wish you fruitful deliberations.
Thank you very much, the representative of the Honorable Minister, for that kind delivery. Well, you rightly address yourself as a servant of the minister, and I want to build on that, servant of the minister. Well, before we proceed to the next item on the program, servant of the minister, if I was one of those women desirous of giving birth through artificial insemination, well, I will be consulting with my gynecologist, and one of the things I will be telling my gynae will be, I will need some specimens of folks like you, tall, bearded, intelligent, and sharp. Please, a round of applause for him, please. With the kind permission of the Honorable Minister, we want to break the protocol here a little bit. It is not in our tradition to break protocol, but to observe protocol. We figured it out that it will be extremely injustice to invite one of the fathers of open and distance learning in not only Nigeria, but in Africa, to be here in this auditorium with us and without giving him a slice of some few of our minutes to say one or two things. Now, the problem with inviting this godfather of open and distance learning is he's so filled up with issues and activities of open and distance learning that 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes or 3 hours may not just be enough for him. So on this occasion, sir, I want to give you 3 minutes. Compress everything within 3 minutes, but you can take up to 5, no problem. Please, let's give a round of applause to Professor Olugbemiro Jegede, my former Vice Chancellor, to please come on stage. We want to hear from you, sir.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Education, represented by Dr. Karim, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, His Excellency Isayo Goda, CON, the president of ODELAN, Professor Francis Ebuhari, the host vice chancellor, who is my boss now. If I don't keep to his words, he may not allow me in the next few hours. Former vice chancellors of the university. As the MC said, that we spent a lot of time working on this university and whatnot. As you can see, they are still wearing caps. I don't have any hair to cover anymore because of all I've been doing, or what I was doing when we were setting up this university. Keynote speakers, the principal officers of the university, all the heads of parastatals, federal government parastatals, deans and directors, our friends from the Commonwealth of Learning, headed by our own Professor Jane Agbo. We also thank Karina for coming. I told her what the name Karina means to me, but I'm not going to say it now to everybody. Members of the local organizing committee, members of ODELAN, ladies and gentlemen. As the chief patron of the association, let me join the president of ODELAN, Professor Francis Ebuhari, and others in welcoming you all to the 2025 ODELAN International Conference at the National Open University of Nigeria. When I started planning for this university in 2001, I was abandoned for 18 months at Sheraton Hotel, even by the Ministry of Education that brought me in from Hong Kong. Many people, in fact, most Nigerians thought Open University cannot work. In fact, one of my fellow professors told me in one of the conferences, he said, I hope you have your ticket to go back to Hong Kong because this is no go work, from what he said. But here we are today, and I want to thank the vice chancellors that came after me. I also want to thank the first 4 or 5 staff that work with me every day at Sheraton Hotel. 2 of them are gone now. One is Mokwe Oki, who she's gone now. We also have Bala Mohammed, who is also dead. But there are 2 others who are still alive and with us in this hall. So I'm number 0001 in the ID card number. I think there must be 3 or 4. And here we have Shehu, His Royal Highness Shehu, is he here? He's one of them. And of course, Professor Olufemi Peters, who joined me in 2003 on sabbatical, and because he saw how mad I was, decided to help me out and decided not to go back to ABU. Thank you for being part of this story. And thank you for carrying on wherever we left. If you had told me you were going to Brazil, I would have handed over to you the bottle of wine they gave me when I also went and gave a keynote address some 5 years ago. And that wine was 75% alcohol. I almost collapsed when I tasted it. I still have it. So had I known you were going, I would have asked you to help me return it to the president there for, Let me make a few things. The president said something about the issue of open and distance learning, etc., etc. I'm not worried. Don't worry yourself at all. It's going to happen. Whether Nigeria likes it or not, whether Africa likes it or not, open and distance learning has come to stay. In fact, it's going to be the main way of educating people in this continent and in the world. The reason is simple. We are told that in 2050, Nigeria will be 500 million people. Which government will be so foolish as to be building, brick and mortar walls to put people in school? No one. So we have to take open and distance learning, and that's where we are. So I'm not worried. Things are moving the way they should move. But let me say one or two other things. In open and distance learning, there are a number of things that are shifting. One, we no more call people who come to us to learn students. There are no more students. The world has moved to calling them learners. Because we now have what is called long life learning. Everybody learns from the labor ward or whatever it is into the grave. We are all learners. So please, when you address your students, address them as learners. The other thing I need to mention, and we need to correct this, and I hope NUC will correct this, and thanks for coming, the director of NUC, of ODL in NUC. One thing you must correct is that a number of institutions you are licensing as dual mode institutions call themselves Open and Distance Learning Institute. They are not open. Don't let's embarrass ourselves in the world. What we have are distance learning centers because they follow specific programs of their mother universities. There are only 5 open institutions in Nigeria: the National Open University of Nigeria and the other 4 open universities that have just been licensed. So please let us know that. The other point I want to make, NUC, is that many of us, in fact most of us, we equate technology with distance learning. No. The medium is not the message. And everybody thinks it's technology. We have forgotten about the foundations, the philosophies of open and distance learning. I will challenge, probably request Commonwealth of Learning, that in some months to come, you will hold a nationwide workshop for all of us, in fact, continental-wide, to redefine what open and distance learning means in terms of its practice. Global research in open and distance learning is focused on adapting to emerging technologies, improving learner engagement, addressing the unique challenges of remote education. In addition to bringing globally acclaimed keynote speakers here, I am quite pleased that ODELAN 2025 has chosen to identify with the global trend. Hence, the choice of this year's conference theme: it is apt, it is attractive, and it is compelling. You will recall that my keynote address at Azaria conference last year had a section on adaptive technologies. Adaptive pedagogies and technologies, as the literature says, refer to tools, systems, or devices that adjust to individual users' needs, abilities, or preferences. These technologies can be particularly helpful for people with disabilities, injuries, or varying learning systems. The examples include assistive technologies, personalized learning, and accessibility features. Adaptive pedagogies and technologies aim to increase accessibility. And for us at ODELAN, it should increase our resolve to take our ODL research to a higher level. I am most convinced that the keynote speaker today, Professor Mpine Makoe, who will agree with me that the National Open University of Nigeria, I will say it very solemnly so that they don't hear in South Africa, is not the best university in Africa. Not in this. We thank you for accepting that you've come to the home of open and distance learning. I commend the president of the association and his hard-working team in the executive council for a job well done. We thank the VC and the Noun family for hosting us and ever ready to support us. I am particularly excited at the growth of the membership in the association. I cannot say it too loudly that in a few years from now, ODELAN will become the point of reference for ODDE in Africa. I'm also impressed with the high number of vice chancellors that are attending this conference. It just goes to show that everybody is getting converted, and you are welcome to the fold. When I started, the only person at the National Universities Commission who supported what I was saying is the only man sitting down here, Professor Mafiana. And I want to thank you for that support that you gave, and thank everybody for this. So ladies and gentlemen, I've been told to speak for just 3 minutes. and I think I did 2.5 minutes. I wish this international conference the huge success it has already begun together. Thank you all.
Can we put our hands together again for the godfather of open and distance learning, Professor Olugbemiro Jegede. Thank you very much, sir. We honor your presence and every single person that is here today. Okay, we're going to move on quickly as we're running against time, and now we will go to goodwill messages. I will just have to reiterate that goodwill messages will be 2 minutes. Yes, we're smiling. I will be standing by your side to ensure that it is not more than 2 minutes. So to start off the goodwill messages, we will have with us here the Director of Open and Distance Learning of the National Universities Commission, and that is Dr. Mrs. Morebise. Can we put our hands together as she comes up to give her goodwill message on behalf of the Commission?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of us, and it's so glad to see this all filled up, even in the afternoon, first day of the conference. And it's going to show how great this conference is going to be. Very successful one. Thank you very much, sir. And I beg the House, our great-grandfathers, fathers, and the young ones of open and distance learning, and permit me to stand on the existing protocol. Thank you very much, sir, Professor Olugbemiro Jegede, our grandfather in this profession. And from your remark, NUC is taking a lead too. From the nomenclature, for people in NUC, especially in my directorate, this is one thing that I started when I resumed office. You cannot be open and distance at the same time. And with this, we have been able to correct a lot of applications that are on the pipeline to know that to be open is not the same thing as to be distant. And for the dual universities that are face-to-face and distance learning, you can only be distant learning. And truly for now, we only have 5 open universities that are actually open: the National Open Universities of Nigeria and the 4 other private open universities. This afternoon, I bring greetings from the National Universities Commission and their executive secretary, who would have loved to be here, but due to, just like the representative of the Honorable Minister had explained, today he had no choice. So please accept his apology. This afternoon, I'll be delivering his message. It is with great pleasure that I address you today at the 3rd International Conference of the Open, Distance and E-Learning Association of Nigeria, ODELAN, hosted by the National Open University of Nigeria. And this conference themed Adaptive Pedagogies for the Future of Education, Connecting Learners, Technologies, and Communities, present a timely opportunity to reflect on the transformative potential of education in a rapidly evolving world. I wish to inform you that the National University Commission was established in 1962 as an appendage of the Cabinet Office and eventually became a full-fledged agency of government in 1974. The NUC is the sole regulatory agency of the Nigerian government, saddled with the responsibility of ensuring the orderly development of university education in Nigeria. And over the years, the Commission has experienced a steady growth in the number of universities, both conventional and open universities as well as distance learning centers. It currently oversees 297 universities, comprising 72 federal universities, 66 state-owned universities, and 159 private universities in Nigeria. In addition, the Commission currently oversees 29 distance learning centers of dual mode universities and 5 open universities, including National Open Universities of Nigeria, National Open University of Nigeria. As the Executive Secretary of National University Commission, I'm deeply committed to advancing the objectives of this conference. The NUC recognizes the critical role of adaptive pedagogies in shaping the future of education. And these pedagogies, which leverage technology and community engagement, are essential in providing equitable and inclusive learning opportunities for all. Distance learning is said to be any educational program where the instructor and students are physically separated. It may involve a combination of digital resources, correspondence materials, or scheduled video sessions, while e-learning is the delivery and acquisition of educational content through digital devices, such as computers, tablets, smartphones, and so on, using the internet or intranet, where institution is facilitated via multimedia resources, interactive tools, and communication technologies to enable remote or self-paced learning. The disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic was a sobering reminder of the fragility of conventional educational system, but they were also powerful catalysts, one that forced institutions to innovate, to digitize, and to embrace flexible modes of delivery. The NUC has long been proponent of open distance and e-learning as a means to expand access to higher education across Nigeria. In its effort towards building a resilient and future-ready higher education system, the NUC has embarked on several initiatives, one of which is the collaborative partnership with the University of London, established in 2017. And this initiative brought about a series of capacity-building workshops to advance open, distance, and e-learning and transnational education in Nigeria. The most recent is a 2-day workshop focused on developing strategies and policies of high-quality open and distance e-learning, and this was held in March in London this year. The workshop brought together over 30 delegates from Nigerian University and the NUC. Our collaboration with ODELAN and now underscores our shared commitment to fostering innovative and educational practices that meet the diverse needs of the learners. This conference brings together a wealth of expertise from across the globe, including keynote speakers, leading national and international experts, and other stakeholders. Their insights will undoubtedly enrich our discussion and guide our collective efforts towards educational excellence. I encourage all participants to engage actively in the sessions, workshops, and exhibitions scheduled throughout this conference. Let us seize this opportunity to share knowledge, forge partnership, and develop strategies that will propel Nigeria higher education into a future characterized by innovation, inclusivity, and resilience. In closing, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers, speakers, and participants for their dedication to advancing the cause of education. Together, let us work together a future where education is not only a tool for personal advancement, but also a catalyst for societal transformation. Thank you very much, Professor Abdullahi Yusufu Ribadu, Executive Secretary, NUC. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I wish you a fruitful and wonderful conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mrs. Morebise, representing the Executive Secretary of the NUC. I know that our 2 minutes moved to like 5 minutes. I hope the next goodwill message, let's try as much as possible to keep it as short as we can. I know we don't want trouble from our principals, but please, let's, rush it. Okay. So the next goodwill message will be taken or given by Dr. Umar Adamu Kwame, who is the Director of Academic Programs. He is here representing the ES of the National Commission for Colleges of Education. Can we put our hands together as he takes his 2 minutes? Okay.
The Honorable Minister of Education, ably represented by Dr. Abdul Karim, Pro-Chancellor and Chairman, Governing Council of NOW, President ODELAN, Vice Chancellor NOW, visiting Vice Chancellors, and Head of Parastatals. I remain Dr. Umar Adamu Kwame, the Director of Academic Program, representing the ES of NCCE, National Commission for Colleges of Education, who is unavoidably absent as a result of attending to other equally important issues. However, he has directed me with the responsibility of presenting his short goodwill messages. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to present the goodwill messages as directed by my boss. It is with great honor and immense pleasure that I bring to you greeting from the National Commission for Colleges of Education at this opening ceremony of the 3rd International Conference of the Open Distance Learning and E-Learning Association of Nigeria, ODELAN. I offer my warmest congratulations to the organizers for bringing distinguished participants and stakeholders together to discuss issues paramount important to the future of education in Nigeria and beyond. The theme of this year's conference, Adaptive Pedagogy for the Future Education, Connecting Learners, Technology, and Community, is not only timely, but highly significant. It aptly underscores the critical role of open and distant learning in shaping the future of education in an era defined by digital transformation. Today, integrating e-learning and open distance learning is no longer a matter of choice, but a necessity. It offers a powerful tool to bridge educational gap, promote inclusivity, and democratize access to quality education, regardless of geographical location and socio-economic background. As stakeholders in the education sector, we are called to seize this moment to explore innovative strategy, leverage emerging technology, and foster strong collaborative network that will drive the development and sustainability of open and distant learning in Nigeria. However, to fully harness the potential of e-learning, we must address the persistent challenges. And these challenges include digital literacy and policy frameworks to ensure that every learner, regardless of their location or background, has access to quality educational resources. The National Commission for Colleges of Education remains committed to supporting this initiative that foster innovative learning and learning method, capacity building and technology, integrating in our colleges. We recognize that the future of education lies in collaboration, continuous learning, and strategic use of e-learning platform to meet the diverse needs of our learners. Today's conference serves as a vital platform for exchanging ideas, knowledge, and best practices that can propel transformation of our educational system. Therefore, I encourage all participants to engage actively in the deliberation, forge impactful partnership, and commit to actionable outcome that will elevate the standard of open and distant learning in Nigeria. Once again, I commend ODELAN for its unwavering commitment to advance open and distant learning and for bringing together thought leaders academics, policymakers, and practitioners to deliberate on strategies that will shape the future of education in our nation. On behalf of the Executive Secretary and National Commission for Colleges of Education, Professor Paulinus Chijo-Ekole, and the entire management, I wish all a successful and impactful conference, and thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar. Kwame, I guess, well, you tried. Almost a little bit above 2 minutes, but you did a good job. Thank you very much. Can we put our hands together for him again? Okay, so to take the next goodwill message, we have the representative of the ES of the National Board of Technical Education. We have Mr. Aliu Hassan Imafidon, the General Manager, NBTE Center of Excellence. So can we have you for your goodwill message? 2 minutes as well.
Thank you very much, Ma. The Honorable Minister of Education, ably represented, permit me to stand on the already established protocols. I'm directed by my Executive Secretary, who is unavoidably absent, to read his goodwill message at this conference. Where I say I, of course, I'm referring to the ES. Distinguished guests, esteemed academics, policymakers, innovators, and champions of education, it is a great honor and privilege to join you at this landmark event, the 3rd International Conference of the Open Distance and E-Learning Association of Nigeria, ODELAN. I commend ODELAN for sustaining this strategic platform for intellectual exchange and educational innovation, particularly at a time when the global learning landscape is undergoing rapid and significant transformation. The theme of this year's conference, Adaptive Pedagogies for the Future of Education, Connecting Learners, Technologies, and Communication, is profoundly relevant, not only to the broader education ecosystem, but also to the TVET in Nigeria. Our future depends on responsive, accessible, and technology-driven learning ecosystem. In the TVET sector, open distance and flexible e-learning, ODFL, is no longer just an alternative. It is fast becoming a critical enabler of equity, flexibility, and industry-aligned training. It brings hope to millions of young Nigerians seeking skills for decent work, entrepreneurship, and national development, especially those constrained by geography, time, insecurity, or social economic limitations. Through ODFL, we are expanding access to skills training for learners in rural and underserved communities, blending practical vocational education with digital content and virtual learning, making learning both accessible and hands-on, empowering working professionals and informal sector artisans to upskill and reskill through modular flexible learning, and building a resilient future TVET system that can adapt to shifting workforce demand, emerging industries, and technological disruption. TVET is not only about acquiring technical skills, it is about applying those skills effectively in real-world and simulated environment. This demands intentional learner-centered pedagogies that bridge theory and practice. In response, we have recently introduced competency-based examination and testing into open distance and flexible e-learning, ensuring that assessment align with industry standard and real job requirements. At the National Board for Technical Education, we remain fully committed to deepening the integration of ODFL into Nigerian national skills development agenda. Our goal is clear: a Nigeria where every citizen, regardless of background or circumstance, has access to high quality, relevant, and future-ready technical and vocational education and training. I salute ODELAN and its partners for advancing this critical dialogue, and I urge all stakeholders to continue bridging the gap between policy, pedagogy, technology, and practice. I wish you all a productive and impactful conference. Let us join hands together to shape a more inclusive, adaptable, and resilient future of education in Nigeria. Thank you. Professor Idris Muhammad Bugaje, Executive Secretary, National Board for Technical Education.
Thank you very much, the representative of the Chief Executive Officer of MBTE, National Board for Technical Education. Yeah, you are within the space of 2 minutes allotted to you, and I know why. Too fast. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're still on it, but now we want to dovetail into something else as we invite the President of the Commonwealth of Learning, Professor Peter Scott, all the way from Vancouver, Canada, for his message.
Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and honored representatives from ministries, tertiary education institutions, student bodies, industry experts, and all valued stakeholders, it's my great privilege to extend a warm welcome to all delegates attending the 3rd Open Distance and E-Learning Association of Nigeria International Conference of 2025, which begins today at the National Open University of Nigeria, NOUN. NOUN is an important partner of COL, hosting one of our regional centers, the Regional Training and Research Institute for Distance and Open Learning, Retrodol. The Commonwealth of Learning, COL, is pleased to be associated with this important event, which provides a unifying platform for all open and distance learning ODL practitioners in Nigeria and beyond, for innovative solutions to our common educational agenda through ODL in alignment with global best practices. As an intergovernmental organization representing the 56 nations of the Commonwealth, of which 21 are in Africa and 7 in West Africa, the Commonwealth of Learning is dedicated to enhancing the efficiency and quality of learning through scalable, open, distance, and technology-based approaches. A mission we share. We firmly believe that learning must drive economic growth and social inclusion, especially in a world where it impacts more than 2.5 billion people across the Commonwealth and beyond. The theme of this conference, Adaptive Pedagogies for the Future of Education, Connecting Learners, Technologies and Communities, is apt and highly relevant. It is apparent that we're at a crossroads where education must evolve to meet the needs of learners, societies, and the economy. The world is witnessing unprecedented change, precipitated by economic shifts, technological disruptions, climate change, and global crises. This requires education systems that are agile, responsive, and learner-centered. As significant players in this sphere, our resolve is that education should be inclusive, flexible, and resilient, and equip learners with the skills required for an uncertain future. We should ensure that learning is not a one-size-fits-all approach, but personalized, driven by data, and inclusive. These and more underscore adaptive pedagogies for education. Permit me to highlight some of our work in this regard, and I hope this stimulates some further deliberations in this conference. We leverage technology for adaptive learning through our APTUS scheme, also referred to as a COL Classroom Without Walls. APTUS is a low-cost, offline learning solution developed to deliver personalized learning in areas with limited internet access. It allows learners to access digital education as content, mostly OER, through mobile devices and laptops without needing an internet connection. The project is ongoing in many Commonwealth countries, including Sierra Leone, Ghana, and Nigeria. For example, in Nigeria, COL support Auchi Polytechnic to train TVET trainers on proficiency for APTUS Pi. As a result, Auchi Polytechnic and the Auchi Tailors Union were able to develop 9 draft courseware units that relate to the garment making and design industries. In partnership with researchers on ICTs in Africa at the University of Nigeria, COL also supports outreach to rural out-of-school children through sourcing curriculum-based OER and sharing these as audio files and printed resources. Some of the learners were assisted to progress from informal through to formal learning through appropriate interventions of community-based civil society organizations. And as of March 2023, 72 OER, audio and text, were developed in business studies, basic science, maths, physical and health education, and social studies. Our partnership with Coursera, Udemy, and Grow with Google offered learners a range of courses, providing them a pathway for lifelong learning, enhancing skills for employment, and entrepreneurship. Our record shows that over 93,000 learners from some 25 Commonwealth nations enrolled in 483,000 self-paced courses. These align with career aspirations, and more than 130,000 course completions were recorded overall. Specifically, 1,165 learners enrolled from Nigeria in over 5,000 courses, with 2,618 certificates being issued through our Skills for Work scholarship program since 2021. Cole's MOOC for Development platform has offered more than 90 courses and has partnership with the National Open University of Nigeria, the National Teachers Institute, the University of Abuja, Nigeria, to offer massive open online courses for diverse learners. Learning Analytics has ensured that learner engagement, progress, and real-time feedback was also facilitated. Our Lifelong Learning for Farmers project empowers farmers, especially women, through mobile-based personalized learning by providing relevant agricultural information, financial literacy training, and farming best practices based on individual needs. Within Africa, farmers in Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Uganda are drawing upon this initiative. Cole's Teacher Network for Girls, 10G, which has implemented a partnership with the Center for Girls Education in Nigeria, has ensured that girls and women can personalize their learning journey and acquire vocational skills. Under this partnership, 70 radio lessons were developed by 35 female teachers in 5 core subjects, with around 239 podcasts. Micro-credentials have emerged as a flexible and powerful tool that allows us to bridge skill gaps and improve employability, and provide individuals with new pathways to professional and academic growth. With the aim of developing a Commonwealth credit transfer framework, Cole has embarked on a 3-year Commonwealth-wide multi-country project focusing on a range of issues around credits and credentialing. We intend this framework to be adapted systematically for Commonwealth countries and education training providers in a cost-effective way. An essential step in this project is the 5 regional stakeholder meetings we've had in Asia, the Caribbean, the Pacific, and Southern and Eastern Africa, and West Africa. We're happy that the 5th and last of these meetings was hosted by NOUN through our regional centre, and it commenced yesterday, May the 13th, and is, I hope, rounding up today. I'm optimistic that the meeting afforded some of us the opportunity to unpack strategies for micro-credentialing within the West African sub-region. So, as I close, let me once again express Cole's sincere appreciation to the organisers of this conference for providing a valuable platform to engage with educators, policymakers, and practitioners who are dedicated to shaping the future of education. The theme of adaptive pedagogies for the future of education, connecting learners, technologies, and communities, speaks directly to the urgent need for innovation in today's rapidly evolving educational landscape. Through our collective commitment and partnership, we've seen the transformative power of technology-enabled learner-centered approaches through initiatives like the micro-credentials one, or the grassroots interventions I've described. At the heart of all these efforts is a shared vision. Every learner, regardless of location or circumstance, deserves access to quality, to flexible and future-ready education. As we reflect on the insights shared and deliberate on the way forward, let us reaffirm our resolve to champion adaptive pedagogies that empower individuals and uplift our communities. The Commonwealth of Learning remains steadfast in its support to this mission and very much looks forward to deepening our collaboration and advancing learning for sustainable development. Thank you, and I wish you all a successful and impactful conference.
Thank you very much, Professor Peter Scott, all the way from the Commonwealth of Learning headquarters in Vancouver, Canada. Yes, very shortly we shall be joining our keynote speaker for that impactful message. But before then, I would like to call on someone that requires no introduction at all, most especially if you are within the Nigerian topography. You must have at least at one point or the other come across this gentleman who was at one time Minister of State for Transport, and another time he was the Minister of Aviation. He was elected the governor of Bauchi State at some time and was returned the second time as a governor. At some time again, he was a bank chief executive officer. All these efforts and activities which the government rightly recognized by decorating him with a national honor, Commander Order of the Niger. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite for a goodwill message my chairman and Pro-Chancellor Governing Council, Dr. Malam Isa Yuguda, for a goodwill message.
I will start by recognizing our minister, ably represented. I will also recognize our first revered Vice Chancellor, who set up this university, that we are very proud of today, Professor Jegede. I also recognize our present Vice Chancellor, my brother Peter. And then, of course, two other brothers who are former Vice Chancellors in this university, Professor Abdullah, and then Professor Tenabe. I want to also recognize the presence of other invited Vice Chancellors from other universities that have come to share this very important experience. We invite, I appreciate the invited guests from outside our country, from different other countries of Africa, and even Europe. So I'm just here to take 1 minute because I am not an academic. I'm a professional banker, ended up as a politician. And of course, these are two different fields altogether. Probably if I was invited to lecture on a topic in economics or in statistics or some of those subjects that I used to be good in, mathematics, maybe I can do that. But it's a long time I have even left the academic environment. So you can see that I must have forgotten so many things. Well, I happen to, I don't know why the president chose me to be the pro-chancellor here, because I would imagine you try as much as possible to look at somebody's experience before you send him to a place. But in any case, when I asked him, just gave me a simple answer, that I know you will do it. That's why I sent you here. I'm a manager, both of resources and of course, human resources. So don't be surprised, they say, former this, former that, former this, former that. He's not supposed to be here. I'm here to complement the efforts of these gentlemen who have built this place, including, of course, their management staff who have toiled day and night to make this university worthy of being what is called an open university. And like some people say, will say these days, there is this issue of artificial intelligence. And there are many of us who are even averagely educated. They don't seem to believe in artificial intelligence. Many have never believed in open university. But I don't know how many people will you go out in Nigeria today and ask them Open University of Nigeria that they don't know. So you can see the manner in which education is, transmitted to the remotest of the remote village of Nigeria. And in fact, even when I came, I observed this is what happened. I told at our council meeting that I'm so amazed that this happens to be the only system through which Nigeria and the poor people's children will educate their wards. And why is it so? The tuition fee and other fees chargeable, I calculated, were less than 2.5 million naira. In the 4 years they are going to be in the university. And the manner of even the course materials, our cost to take course materials on some of the subjects I know. And I have not seen something like that. In all the programs I've attended, I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, though long time ago. But I have, in recent years, attended so many international courses in some of the best institutions in America and Europe. But I have not seen something like this. So it is something that I have discovered all over Nigeria today, almost, do I say? I hope I don't misquote myself. But I'm sure, without doubt, that 70 to 80% of the universities in Nigeria today use now study materials, both their students and their teachers. And I've gone around, I've seen them practically. The university I opened in Bauchi, they have graduated over 70,000 students now, and it's huge. I came to discover that your own reading materials is what they use at many other universities, even the southern part of the country. So you can see you are pulling resources, quality resources, and then give them a challenge to develop something that is easily transmittable from somebody who is reading it to his brain, or somebody who is teaching him online to his brain. So it's a very wonderful development in Nigeria. And of course, when the minister was speaking through his special advisor, he was alluding to the fact that our law students performed the best in the law school, and yet they were denied entrance again to go and run the program. This is the running battle now we are having. And by the grace of God, and to encourage the students, we will succeed. The minister is very positive about it, and I believe by the time it reaches the presidency, the table of the presidency is not going to be treated something that is just as simple as that. But people don't know, why should you deny somebody education? Why is he qualified and we don't want to qualify? It's just like medical doctors qualifying, and you say, look, you cannot go for internship. Maybe the university you qualify from is not worth. So we have to be very careful. We should not be resistant to change. And that is where we know about Nigeria. Even in some environments, you come in as a new man, try to introduce changes, there must be resistance. That you must be dogged and insist on what you are doing is the right thing. So I don't want to bore you too much. I have to commend the organizers of this workshop, and also congratulate my Vice Chancellor, Professor Peters, and his team for hosting this event this year in now Abuja. So we appreciate the association and its own leadership for deciding to bring it to Abuja. And we are looking forward to hosting you many more times. I thank you, and I wish you journey messages as you go back to your homes.
Thank you very much, Honorable His Excellency, the Malam Isa Yuguda, CON, who is the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman Governing Council of NOUN. Thank you so much for that goodwill message. We are going to run quickly to the next item on the agenda. We need to get to this as quickly as possible. All right, so now we are getting into the meat of today's opening ceremony. But to do the introduction of the keynote address speaker, I am going to invite someone who is very important, and I think today it has been mentioned how important Retrodol has been to the establishment of open and distance learning even across. So to do this introduction of the keynote speaker, I will invite Professor Christine Ofuluwe, who is the Director of Retrodol and Chair Programs Committee. Can we put our hands together for her?
Thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to proceed on an already established protocol. May I invite Professor Mpine McCoy to come to the stage as we present our profile. Yes. Professor Mpine McCoy is the Executive Dean of the College of Education and an NRF-rated research professor in open distance e-learning at the University of South Africa. She holds a PhD and MSc in Educational Technology from the Open University UK, an MA in Journalism from the University of Michigan, and a BA in Communication and English from Hope College. She was a Commonwealth of Learning co-chair in Open Education Practices Resources and is currently a board member of the International Council for Distance Education, ICDE, serving as its OER ambassador. She is also a founding member of the Global Doctoral Consortium at the ICDE. Professor McCoy is actively involved in open and distance education associations nationally and internationally, and has held leadership positions in the African Council for Distance Education, ACDE, Distance Education Association of Southern Africa, DIASA, and the National Association of Distance Education and Open Learning in South Africa, NADIOSA. She is also a founding member of the University Futures Network. A respected scholar, Professor McCoy has delivered keynote addresses at numerous international conferences, published extensively in ODEL-related fields, and supervised doctoral students. She has contributed to UNESCO's Futures of Higher Education and facilitated ODL strategies and policies for universities across Africa. Professor McCoy has worked on several commissioned research projects for organizations like the Commonwealth of Learning and the British Council. She currently serves as a council member for the Botswana Open University, further cementing her role as a leader in open and distance education in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Mpine McCoy as she delivers her keynote address at this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ofuluwe, for the kind invitation. And thank you so much, Chair. I stand on the protocol that has been recognized before me because I don't want to make mistakes and go on and on. So I'll just leave it at that. But I will be failing in my duty to acknowledge my colleagues the godfathers and the godmothers of distance education, and all the people that I've worked with in this journey, that we have traveled this journey together. And first, I want to recognize Professor Jegede. He's a really godfather. I even remember when this whole thing started. I know in January 2004, yourself and Professor Pichana from UNISA and Professor Maritim from Egerton University, you got together with other VCs and started the African Council for Distance Education. So he didn't only start now, he also started the African Council for Distance Education, where all people from the continent gathered just to come together and talk about distance education. So distance education was so important for these gentlemen that gathered in Egerton University. I think many of them had hair at that time. Now it's something else. And where they gathered to discuss ways of promoting open distance education. And at the time, Professor Pichana was a chair, and Professor Jegede was a deputy, and Professor Maritim became the general secretary, where the home of the ACDE, the African Council of Distance Education, had to become. So before this association was established, the one that was just established a few years ago, Nigeria hosted the ACDE conference in 2007, whereas it was hosted in 2005 by South Africa. And we had very good scholars from Noun. Professor Adu, some of them had already left us. Professor Adu, who was doing quality assurance. Professor Kurasha, who also left us. Professor Mbwete, all those sons and daughters who had a clear vision of what they wanted distance education to look like. We are standing on those shoulders as we stand here. So I thought maybe I should also acknowledge the previous VCs, because I worked with them at the ACDE, Professor Adamu and Professor Tenebe, and lately Professor Peters. But Professor Peters has been around, hovering around somewhere, but he was there, I think, since your time, Prof. Because when you couldn't, he was there. Thank you. I just wanted to talk about the futures of education in terms of being personalized, networked, and inclusive. And why is this necessary for the topic of today? And the topic of today is about networking. It's about communities. It's about coming together as a community. Colleagues, we know, what has happened here? Oh yeah. Higher education, these disruptions are not new in higher education. Throughout the years and centuries and decades, there had been changes. And changes mean something. If there's a changes in societies, it means that higher education or education sector must change as well. In the 1400s, the printing press came into being, and people said, like you, questioning how can people study from the books. And now we take it for granted that books have always been there, and therefore you can't study in any way besides looking at the book. Then the postal service came, and that's when our education system started. The correspondence, because now trains can move around, they can take postal things quickly, and still people said, this is not gonna work. Then you still need a person to stand in front of you. Then radio came and says, how can you study by just listening to someone who's looking at you? And then television came as well, and there are universities that used television very successfully. The Open University UK used television extremely successful, and they still use it. Then the internet came, and people thought that it was there for a second, it will never survive. And it's still here as we speak. And in different ways, it changed faces and all those things. Mobile phone, when we're talking about mobile phone, I remember in 2007 when I was doing research on mobile phone, on how best to support students at a distance. And my colleagues at the university were telling me that, no, but these students cannot write, they cannot read, and these things are too small and whatever. But look at where mobile phone is now. It has moved from being just a small gadget in the hands of someone to being a big thing. So disruptions are there. And disruptions in society expect us as education sector to move and to change. However, education sector has not moved an inch. In the 1800s, exams was full of males in a classroom like this one, and all they were writing exams. And this was during the industrial era. In the industrial era, it was necessary for people to do the same thing because it was preparing them to work in factories, it was preparing them to work in industries where they don't have to think more than just to remove one thing to the next to the next. In the 1900s, even as late as 1920 or 2020, when COVID hit, we were very much worried about the end of this. And we were worried, how can people write exams? We're not even worried about teaching and learning during that time. UNISA was the only university in South Africa that actually continued with studying at the height of COVID. And people kept on saying, well, but how do you make sure that students don't cheat, students don't do this? And we said, but is that learning? If students are not cheating, is it what we are here for? How do we spend the whole year with our students and we're just saying we don't want them to cheat? It's all about pedagogy. If you teach online and you teach using technology, you'll have to teach differently. You cannot teach the same way as you have taught in the classroom. So during COVID, what we saw is a lot of people just went into a screen, read lecturers to students, and students were bored, obviously. Who wants to just look at your face, and it's not even a face that they want to see anyway, and then you force them to sit there for an hour and expect something to happen. So it's important that as we change, the whole systems and structures and practices have to change along. You cannot continue to do things the same way and just add technology and expect the miracle to happen. Technology is just not a miracle. The pedagogy has to be at the center of what we are trying to do. This is one thing that I always say, that if I become the Minister of Education, I'm going to ban exams. I'm going to get rid of exams because I don't understand why we have exams and we have the system that is not responsive to the needs of people that live and work in this environment. In Africa, this is not helpful at all. And we operate like we are just in the business of delivering grades and degrees. That's not what we are here for. We are here to empower people. We are here for people to start being critical thinkers. We are here to ensure that people are creative. Right now in Africa, we import so much stuff from elsewhere because we can't think of doing things differently. There's an AI. AI is coming and is strong, and we want to push it out. Universities now are having policies on how to ensure that we ban AIs. There was a time when schools and university banned mobile phones. And where did that take us? We are still here. We are not police, colleagues. We are teachers. And as teachers, we are here to develop people, not to kill their way of doing things. And I like the quotation of Razak, one of the scholars, who talks about bringing back the soul in education with a higher sense of purpose. When we start looking at numbers of grades and exams and degrees, we stop thinking about who this person is. We stop thinking about human beings. Now, are universities in the continent fit for purpose? If we look at our universities, we look at the level at which we are underdeveloped, we look at the level of the stagnations of economic growth, we look at the level of social cohesion, which is central to what we need to be empowering people with. Are we fit for purpose? Because many times we talk about quality, and quality is about fitness for purpose. If something is not fit for purpose, then it's not quality work. It's not quality. It needs to fit the purpose of our countries. Our countries are faced with a lot of things. What is happening now is that we have a growing population. And Prof was saying that by 2050, we'll have 3 million people. 3 billion. Now it's 1.5 billion. So by 2050, this number would have doubled if we talk about billions. And a majority of them, 70% of sub-Saharan population is under 25 years. Now we have massive work to do, colleagues, and this is no joke. We need to start investing in education, and education that's going to address the issues that we are struggling with. In Europe, if we expect Europe to do it for us, they are dealing with population that is dwindling in age. They are dealing with old age. They are looking for health things to ensure that their population is healthy and old, and we are dealing with a young population. So how do we expect people who are dealing with a population that is not even like us to do what we need to do? So the biggest headache of other countries that we have relied on since colonialism, that has brought in whatever that we are using even now, they left us behind and they are going back and developing their countries differently. So colleagues, I just wanted us to ponder on that. So our greatest fear in this space is that education is becoming more and more irrelevant. Many of our students graduate and they are in the streets with degrees. And I know this happens all over the continent. And also we need just to check, what is it that is happening now? The planet is a mess. People are unhappy. Profits are driving education. We are no longer shaping the child that we need to shape for the society that we want. We are more now on who gets what, how much you should get in your pocket, and all that. And what might happen if we don't do these things, if we don't address, if we don't analyze the space that we find ourselves? What do we need to do? What will we do as a strategy? What will we do it with? And how will we do it? And when Prof. Jegede, many years ago, had a vision of saying, you know what, this country has a huge population and higher education institutions cannot carry them. He came up with the idea of the Open University, and he was hit hard. I know the history because he was hit hard in all directions, but he persevered. He persevered with people that he surrounded himself with. So it's important for us to have associations like ODELAN where we surround ourselves with some of this. It is helpful because the other thing that higher education teaches us, from a very highly social environment, collaborative environment in the African community, we get to be extreme individuals. And we can't function because that's not our space. We cannot function. So networking talks to the core of the African culture. Social ways of doing things talks to the core of the African culture that we have lost. that we have moved. I like this Alvin Toffler in his book that talks about the future shock. He says, much education springs from some image of the future. If the image of the future held by a society is grossly inaccurate, its education system will betray its youth. And I like it because I can see how we are betraying our youth. I can see how we are not impacting the work that we are doing. We are pushing content. We are not looking at the social space where this content is going to. We are not even trying to address the areas that are important to us and that are important to the development and the economic growth of the continent. There are lots of futures of higher education, the reports that have been developed by UNESCO on the futures of higher education. And part of the reason is because education, not only in the continent, but worldwide, is not addressing the global challenges. And there are many global challenges that we are working with. Even our next top cyber challenges we are not addressing. When there's a war in the next country, we just say, well, it's their problem. And you forget that anything that happens is going to impact you. It will come to your home very, very soon. So these are the reports. So I want just to talk briefly about the futures. Why it's important for us to think of the future. Where I work, I'm a dean in the College of Education, where we train 50% of the teachers in South Africa. So that's the level at which distance education is able to do. 50% of the teachers. Now, all these teachers, when we train them, we don't train them to solve today's problems. We need to train them because they will be training children who will be adults in 2050 and 2060. Now, it's important for us that we are empowering the teachers that will be teaching, that they will be teaching a highly digitalized child. All the children that they will be teaching in the classroom in 2030, all those children would have grown up during COVID, and they were raised by phones and all these gadgets that they are raised with. So it's important for us to ensure that the people that we train today, we don't think about today, solving today's solutions. We need to think about this population that's going to be double the number in 2050. So it's important. So the futures research offers tools to envision images that invokes our own aspiration. Education by nature is about aspiration. When you think about it, people walk into education because they aspire to do something. Policy is support strategy. Policy is what we were talking about in micro-credentialing, in making sure that we have frameworks that will guide us as we develop micro-credentialing. So the aspirations of the futures of higher education are dependent on political will. You cannot remove the systems, the structures, the government, and an enabling environment. So we need to have an enabling environment, and that enabling environment will be pushed by associations like ours. Associations like ours must develop policy briefs so that those policy briefs go into the government spaces and they address issues of the government that we need. Now I have two, and I just put some question mark on the others. We know that the future of higher education is going to be highly open. It will be networked, because technology enables us to do that. I didn't want to say it will be digital because I want to start on the issue of pedagogy, not the tool. The tool enables us to be networked. The tools enables us to do the things that we cannot do. So it's the tool that we need to use in order for us to teach. It's personalized because an individual can pick and choose what they want to do. And I hope that micro-credentialing is going to grow to that space. Instead of us trying to check everything, if this is the same as my university, and if this is enough for my university, we have micro-credentialing where a person will take whatever that they get, the credit that they got through MOOCs or through OER, and move to another university or move into a workplace. There will be, in some time, universities that are just there to give credits, to look at credits and count them and say this is a degree. Not in this format way of saying a degree, you must do 1, 2, 3, 4. A person will choose what they want. And now we are beginning to promote critical thinking. We are beginning to promote ways at which people can do things differently. Because this world is not a one-size-fits-all. We have learned a hard way that one-size-fits-all is not working. So this one, personalized also, will be inclusive in a way, because people will be doing programs that they want to do. So if we move away from programs and focus on what the needs are, the skills are, the responsiveness of what you want to do, we will go a long way. One VC from OUT, from Open University of Tanzania, was giving a talk in our university not long ago, and was saying when he did his engineering degree, it took him 4 years. And it was at the time when they had to draw with hands, and if you make a mistake, you have to tear the whole paper and start from all over again. Now, technology enables you what you used to do for days on end. It enables you to do it for maybe 30 minutes at the most. And you can duplicate the rooms, you can duplicate all these things that he was doing. And why then, he asked, why is the degree still 4 years for engineering? Why is the degree still this, the length of time, when you can go into the sometimes you may not even need to be trained. You can train yourself. There are lots of MOOCs, there are lots of OERs, there are lots of all these things. And you can actually be an architect and draw your own house. So why do we need people to go through for 4 years? And we can also Google these things and get them. So even the length of time that we take in universities, is it really worth it? Is it really worth our time? So when we talk about change, we talk about drastic things. We don't talk about things and then we just add a little bit here and a little bit there. So I hope that regulators are listening, and not to say, well, you finished your qualification in 2 years. What's stopping you from finishing it in 2 years? What's stopping you from finishing it in 5 years? What's stopping you from adding and removing and whatever? And maybe part of our problem is focusing on qualifications. Maybe we need to relook at that. It's focusing on programs. Who has put together that program for you? Who are you? Because you need to program things for yourself. So it's one of those things that I think as education, higher education, we need to be able to focus on. Which means that, why is it jumping like this? I don't want, okay, yeah. If we want to change education for change, oh gosh, education for change requires education to change. We cannot talk about change without changing. Education has to change. We need to start rethinking, envisioning the mission of higher education in the digital era. The mission of higher education in the digital era should be different from what we think the vision of higher education should be. We need to start rethinking. We need to start redefining our roles as a nation. Responsive higher education to the nation's needs, not what we think my teacher has taught me in biology and therefore I have to go through exactly the same thing. We need to repurpose higher education by coming up with workable solutions in a highly digitalized world. So things are done differently. And why do we continue with programs? Why do we continue with degrees? Why do we continue with all these things that are not really helping us a great deal? I like this story because I come from South Africa. We have elephants where I come from. And elephants are also totems. They are totems of my children. My children come from this totem. And I know how to deal with this totem because you know that when you deal with the totem, you have to go back to where this animal comes from. Now, and I brought the guard there, the tracker, who works in the park. And they say the only way that you can calm an elephant like AI is coming our way, and it's very strong, and it's very aggressive. And an elephant, to deal with it, if you run away, it will catch you. It may look big, but it will catch you, and it will trample on you. If you don't, if you attack it, it will attack back, and it will get rid of you. But what we can learn from game rangers is that when you are approached by an angry elephant, you need to know who you are. You need to stand firm. You need to speak with authority, look it in the eye, give confidence, and provide a vision of where it should be going. And definitely it will never attack you. And this story, I'm trying to talk about this story because we are not firm as higher education institutions. We take whatever that is given, that is brought our way. We are not providing a vision of where we want to be. Unless you have a strong identity of knowing who you are, anything will take you, any train will take you anywhere it wants you to go. So I like this picture of an elephant because with my children, I have to speak with authority. They remind, especially the female one, always reminds me that she's an elephant, and I have to be confident when I talk to her. Otherwise, there's no way that we can deal with it. An angry elephant reacts positively to calmness, kindness, and empathy. Don't attack. Don't say, remove AI in the classroom. Let's work with it. Let's develop our own indigenous knowledge systems to ensure that this big elephant that is coming our way is going to listen to what we want it to do. So as animals rely on emotions, and so can we. We understand emotions, and we need to begin to be the human being that we are. Finally, universities must help students shape a rapidly changing landscape rather than simply learn how to analyze or understand the landscape as it is changing. So we need to teach our students how to shape the university or even the education that they want. This was said by Daniela Tilbury at a conference in 2024, and I actually liked it because this is where I thought the empowerment starts, by changing the way, by shaping our students in a way that they will be able to be part of change rather than just being observers of change. Thank you. Nyabonga Gyalebo.
Oh, I would have thought you Nyabonga Gyalebo. I thought it's Calabar something. What's the meaning?
What?
I thought you were speaking Calabar in Nigeria.
What
you say thank you? Thank you. Oh, that's what it means. Oh, okay, Inyo.
Inyo.
Inyo. Thank you very much, Prof. It was really engaging and above all inspiring to share from that deep reservoir of your knowledge base. Well, our time is fast spent, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and as we walk lazily to the finish line, I would like to invite for a presentation of gifts to some deserving personalities with us here. We want to first start with the chairman of this occasion, and that again will follow in that sequence with our keynote speaker. And the presentation will be done by no other than my Vice Chancellor, who will be presenting the special gift to the chairman of the occasion. So I have the honor again in inviting Professor Olufemi Peters to kindly invite Professor Olugbemiro Jegede for this occasion.
Oh, all right. Yes, Professor Jegede, please come. This standing beside me here is Professor Olugbemiro Jegede, who is being appreciated by ODELAN for his participation as chair of the opening ceremony and the role he has played in open and distance learning in Nigeria, in Africa, and especially this particular moment at the third Open Distance and E-Learning Association of Nigeria conference hosted at the National Open University of Nigeria. It's my pleasure, sir, to present this to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. VC, sir, ODELAN will still require this token of favor from you to extend similar presentation to our keynote speaker. So you may wish to invite the keynote speaker, sir.
May I invite Professor Makoe Ipine to come to the front and please, yeah. Yes. Distinguished audience, I have before us Professor Ipine Makoe in appreciation of her participation as the keynote speaker at this third Open Distance and E-Learning Association of Nigeria International Conference 2025 at our university, and an appreciation by ODELAN to her for the keynote address that she has just delivered. It's therefore my honor to present this plaque to you, Ma, and to congratulate you for accepting to come all the way from Pretoria to Abuja. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I shake you?
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor. Thank you very much, our keynote speaker. This has lazily brought us to almost the finish line. But before we touch the finish line, I'd like to invite Professor Bamikole Oguleye for a vote of thanks.
Thank you very much. I stand here and standing on existing protocols because our day is fast spent. Indeed, I should just simply mount this podium and say a very big and heartfelt thank you, and then drop the mic and go back to my seat. But if I do that, I will have disappointed a number of constituents of this audience. Therefore, I choose to say a very big thank you. First, to the Honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Maruf Tunji Alausa, who has graced this occasion, though represented, but his representation of the stature that it has been shows that he is very passionate as a minister for the open distance and e-learning association and its development in Nigeria. So I say a very big thank you to him. Again, I would like to thank the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, our own His Excellency Dr. Isa Yuguda, CON, for being with us this evening. Professor Isa Yuguda has continued to sharpen our vision as a university through the instrumentality of the council that I am also privileged to be a member. I also extend a profound gratitude to the Vice Chancellor, National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi Ayinde Peters, who tomorrow will add another feather to his cap, because the ODELAN will invest him with the highest honor of membership. So Professor Olufemi Ayinde Peters will become fellow of ODELAN tomorrow. This is not supposed to be surprising, because since inception, the Vice Chancellor has been behind us as ODELAN. Remember in the year 2023, he was there with us at Babcock. In 2024, he was with us at ABU Zaria. And he's hosting us here in the National Open University beginning from this day for the next 3 or 4 days. The Vice Chancellor is spending. He's being spent. And all he wants is to make our stay in Abuja a very memorable one. So I want an applause to the Vice Chancellor. I also want to appreciate our pioneer Vice Chancellor, Emeritus Professor Olugbemiro Jegede, who has been a leading light in the ODL balance, not only in Nigeria, not only in Africa, but the world over. Professor Olugbemiro Jegede has continued to follow ODELAN. He has continued to mentor ODELAN. He has continued to support ODELAN. And so we want to say a very big thank you very much, sir. I also appreciate other CONDAM Vice Chancellors of this university, Professor Vincent Ado Tenebe, Professor Abdallah Uba Adamu, for being here. Now he's very lucky to have these gentlemen as former Vice Chancellors. And I believe that they will continue to offer their support for ODELAN. I also want to appreciate the keynote speakers, Professor Peter Scott and Professor Mpin McCoy, who traveled from far. I will appreciate your being with us and we have really benefited from your presentation. We know that the networking continues even in the next few days. Thank you very much, ma. I want to appreciate someone that I must not fail to thank, and that is the man we call the Godfather in the National Open University of Nigeria. He is no other person but Professor Chiedu Mafiana, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic. Though not a member of ODELAN, he served as the LOC chair for the preparation of the university for this conference. And it will not be surprising that in a very few months, you will discover that ODELAN has caught a big fish, because he will metamorphose from the professor of science that he has been and become a convert in the open distance and e-learning family. You are very much welcome, sir. I also want to appreciate the facilitators of the pre-conference workshops. Our members have benefited immensely from those sessions. And I want to say a very big thank you to all of you who participated in the preparation, planning, and execution of the pre-conference workshops. In closing, but maybe before then, I should thank the NYSC troop. They showed great artistry, and they really gave a captivating performance. We appreciate them. The gentlemen of the press, photographer, media specialists, you are all well appreciated for the wide coverage extended to this conference. What about the master and, do I say, mistress of this program, who anchored this opening ceremony in ways that we have all enjoyed? I thank you so much. God bless you. And in closing now, I want to congratulate our president, Professor Francis Egohari, for the great job, the great leadership that we have enjoyed under you. Professor Egohari was already a professor when I was an assistant lecturer in the University of Ibadan. And working now with him as secretary, I was just seeing myself as the same assistant lecturer to a professor. And sincerely, it was a very good relationship. Prof, thank you very much, sir. I also want to thank every ESCO member of ODELAN and all members of the association. What about the participants who have graced this occasion? We thank you so very much. And as we close, I want to wish you all an enjoyable evening. Indeed, an enjoyable networking session, which is the next on the program that you have in your hands. To our partners who have supported us in one way or the other, British Council, NTI, Vador, Mission, Retreadall, Milk in Ban, and all the others. Kudos to all of you. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Ogunleye. And we have come to the wrap of this year's ODELAN International Conference. I believe that it has been an exciting experience, and I want to thank you all for sitting through. Now we will have lineup of pictures to round this up, but we will take the special guests right in front, our keynote address speakers, the VC, everyone seated here. I hope the photographer is ready. Okay, good. So we'll take the pictures first, and after that, there is a reception, a cocktail at the Convocation Arena. We have a something light for you before you leave this evening. I want to thank you all for being here. My name is Olufunto Olude, your compare, and of course with me was Mr. Ambrose. Go on. So thank you so much for being here, but let's take the pictures. We'll take the first set.